We have, of course, the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels, but he was a creative director on Star Wars and Clone Wars, and a creative executive at Lucasfilm. You know them, of course. They need no introduction, but I'm just going to bring them up right now. Please welcome Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo.
Hey, guys. David.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How you been?
Good. Pablo.
Wow. Holy smokes.
We sprung for the cushy chairs this time,
I guess so,
which
yeah.
is nice.
When we pictured this panel, I never pictured a room this big.
It's
a lot
big.
of people.
Yeah, there were 3 people in the room when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
Kind of figured that would be the size of it all.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
No, you guys are Clone Wars fans, right? Well, so this panel is the Untold Clone Wars, right?
Yes.
Now, I personally, we were talking about this backstage, which is funny because I just shook your hand like we haven't seen each other in a while. But
That's okay.
We were just backstage together. But we were talking about this because you have released quite a bit of Clone Wars material since starting Star Wars Rebels, starting with the Lost Missions that you released, Season 6 on Netflix, which is incredible. Just incredible. And then, of course, the Clone Wars Legacy content on StarWars.com, which was awesome. It was great to see that stuff, but I understand.
Let's not forget the Darth Maul comic, Son of Dathomir.
That's right.
Another one.
That's right.
Yeah.
So a lot of scripts, a lot of ideas came out of that creative process for you guys. So what are we looking at today? The Untold Clone Wars. What does the Untold Clone Wars mean? I've been kept in the dark.
Well, yes, you have.
Seriously, I have. I want to know.
Pablo and I, we get together all the time, almost every day. His office is right near mine, and we talk about Star Wars all day, and we still talk a lot about Clone Wars. A lot of what we do in Rebels is still really relevant to what we did in Clone Wars and stories and characters. And Pablo and I have had this thing the last several celebrations where we like to get in front of everybody and talk kind of in detail about the Star Wars universe, a deeper dive and look at the characters. So since Clone Wars hasn't really have anything in production, we thought, well, let's take all this information that he and I know, all these scripts that we have, all these drawings that we had done, all these story reels that were shot, and I keep seeing, it's really funny. I can't go at anything about Rebels without seeing like hashtag Save the Clone Wars people saying, bring back Clone Wars, and all this stuff everywhere I go. Bring back Clone Wars. And I personally really appreciate that. Making that show meant so much to me. It meant so much to the crew of Clone Wars. The outpouring at its cancellation really blew our minds. So it was really, Pablo and I said, let's give something back to these people. They obviously love Clone Wars still. We have a bunch of stuff, so let's get together and talk about it, and that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
That
Stuff
sounds
you've never
exciting.
seen.
I am more than okay with this. That's great.
To start off with, I went through a few sources, including Dave Filoni's sketchbook, which we scanned some images from. There was some imagery that was already done by the art department, led by Killian, and in some cases, we actually have proxy animation, low-res animation footage that we could show you today. So,
All kinds
That's
of stuff.
cool. So you have let me make sure I understand this. You've got whole sequence animation footage that is done that we're going to look
that's
at.
never been seen before.
Yeah.
And who knows if it may be seen again.
Who knows? I
So-
never know. But we were in the middle of shooting several episodes. The way the production worked, we worked on multiple episodes at a time. What got to all the way to final animation and the final Yoda episode of season 6 was kind of where the cutoff point went with animations that, okay, this stuff will be finished through lighting. But there were all these other things coming down the track that were in various states of completion. So that's a lot of what we brought today.
And we get to see this. You're blowing the lid off this today?
Yeah, we asked if we could do this, and no one said no.
So yeah, we're just.
I'm just not sure. We're worried now because we're like, are we sure? Maybe they were really distracted by that big panel they had this morning.
Yeah.
And people are like, yes, Dave,
Yeah,
Pablo,
go ahead,
yes,
you
you
go
can show
ahead,
that
yeah.
stuff. I'm like, really? Okay. How about this? Sure. How about this? Sure. Come on, Pablo, let's go. So.
If the lights go out, come back, and
I was
we're
gonna
gone.
say,
You'll
the
find
lights
out what happened,
Yeah.
basically.
The lights are still on, so maybe we should not push our luck. Let's roll something.
If we could
can.
go to slides here.
Yeah, if we got slides up.
Yeah, we do. So
There we go.
There we go.
let's take a look at these characters.
Do you want to go full screen on this?
Yeah, if we could go full screen on imagery, they don't need to see us. While
They
we
don't
look
need
at
to
stuff.
see us.
All right, just give it a second. But if you want to start talking about about that. Oh,
Now,
here
it's
we go.
not exactly a secret that we were going to come back to this part of the universe. I guess it's safe to say. And we actually showed a little bit of this in Germany. And how many people here actually went to Celebration Germany? All right.
Oh, not
so
bad.
Apologies for showing you something again, but hopefully you liked it. So yeah, you want to?
Well, we were bringing Cad Bane back. We had, those of you that follow the Clone Wars know, we focused on a lot of character groups. So there was usually a bounty hunter series of stories, the Jedi series of stories, droid series of stories, and then clone-centric arcs. The next arc that involved the bounty hunters was really finally bringing the two big bounty hunters and Boba Fett and Cad Bane together. And it was a story about their interaction and got into Cad Bane's knowing Django and a bit of history about that. For that, we did an updated Cad Bane, so this was going to be his costume, which is actually slightly different than the one he had in the previous episodes of Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
As the models and animation had improved, we tended to upgrade the models.
And these episodes. Oh, here we go.
That was his ship, the Justifier, designed by Russell Chong.
Cool.
So it had a reorienting centerpiece thruster that kind of, you see that big tall pillar, it folded back flat into the ship and then folded up. So we got to see that. Unfortunately, never going to happen, but it was still cool, you know.
Well, let's show this to the Hasbro guys and maybe.
Well, there it is.
Yeah, there you
know, someone will make it. I
Sure,
hope out of foam core, but.
Well, you know, I think about all the, for example, the Ralph McQuarrie concepts that are in Rebels, right? And a lot of stuff that you guys have gone through with concept art on Episode 1 and other movies and taken those and incorporated them into the Clone Wars and then, of course, now into Rebels. So I look at this as a Star Wars fan and think, well, you never know.
Never know.
Nothing gets thrown out. So.
Exactly. Nothing
That's
gets
for
thrown out.
sure.
This could show up in, ooh, what's this?
So we were going to go to Tatooine in this arc. And,
Yeah,
Tatooine.
yeah, definitely. This is a Tuscan Raider Shaman leader, and part of the story, the episode was basically.
Is that a Womp Rat skull or something? What is that?
I can't remember. I think it was like a baby crate dragon is what we were working off of, but it was basically George likes the movie The Searchers, so we were doing an episode where Boba and Cad kind of teamed up to rescue this kid that had been kidnapped by Tuscan Raiders. And it followed very similar plots. So we did a lot of development on Tuscan Raiders for the episode.
We've got another one here. See how it translates to the Clone Wars style.
This one lost an arm.
Yeah, we can't do as much cloth on Clone Wars, so we had to find ways to simplify the outfits so there wasn't a lot of simulation involved. And you can see all the details that go into keeping something classically, the classic look. A lot of it, and we do this on Rebels now, is based off of Kenner toys, oddly.
Yeah. How did Kenner translate those
It's
robes?
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Oh, that's interesting. In order to avoid cloth sim, basically. Yeah, but it's also retro. That's fantastic. It's very smart. Oh, this
Gonna see one of
do-bag.
these? Yeah. That was fun.
The dewback, yeah. We gave him a little hat. I really liked that. That's the thing I love most. They put a little hat on him. I'm like, oh, look. And he looks like he's smiling, which is, he likes his hat. So, but it was kind of cool to think of Cad and Boba riding these dewbacks out into the desert.
Are those dewbacks now, did you get to animation on those as well?
Well, David, no. But
Okay.
that just sounds disappointing. So let's not
Sorry
talk
about that.
about it. It's okay. They were happy.
We do have a little something to show from this episode, though.
Oh, cool. Look at this.
So if we could roll that first clip.
We're about to be ambushed.
Are you sure?
Yep, we are completely surrounded. It's gonna be a pretty good scrap.
We can take him.
Oh, I'm sure we could, but instead, I want you to let yourself get captured.
What? No way.
Look, the only way we're gonna be able to find their camp is if they take you alive and drag you back to it. Take this tracking device so I can locate you.
Can I at least put up a fight?
Just don't overdo it. You don't want them to kill you. Get ready. Here they come.
I do hope that young Boba will be all right.
Don't worry, Toto. He should be fine. As long as the sand people ain't hungry.
That was great. That was great. How do we speculate? Would one speculate that he knew that he was surrounded? Was it just a change in the air, or he just kind of knew? Or?
A lot of that was just to show that Cad was a vastly more experienced hunter, so he had a sense of these things. He probably knew along the way that they were being tracked, and that, of course, is Corey Burton playing Cad Bane, Seth Green playing Toto 360, and Daniel Logan playing Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I really loved working with those guys. They did a great job.
And that's a rare example of material that it has the voices in it. Most of this stuff that's in progress, they never even got that far where they had the full cast recording it.
So that was final voiceover
For that
essentially,
sequence,
For that
yeah.
sequence,
Yeah.
wow, that's nice. That's
Basically,
great.
that would have been shipped off to be animated once it was locked. So it was pretty close.
Wow, that's incredible. That was really great. And it was great to see the dynamic, sort of the sort of mentor dynamic there. I'd be really curious to know kind of where that could potentially go in other stories or comics or something like that. Especially after seeing the Django
We
Boba.
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But hey, you planted the seed, right?
That's
Well,
right.
something Pablo and I do quite a bit is we try to find a home for some of these stories, like the Darth Maul story
Yeah.
ended up in comics, and even more recent stuff.
So we're always looking at it, always trying to figure out when the time might be right to revisit some of these ideas.
That's incredible. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
So I've got, moving on to the next, here we go.
Oh, cool. Wait, that looks like a Wookiee riding a giant monkey. That's what that looks like
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, that is what that is. George had this idea that the Wookiees knew these giant tree spirits, and so I sketched this for him, and then you see the little yellow post-it on there is because he didn't like the first head I drew for it. So
Really?
Yeah.
So that's a scan of your binder? Right
Yeah,
there?
so I put a post-it on it and redrew it, and then he liked that one much better. But the Wookiees could kind of summon these giant tree gods and ride them, but it was a very kind of religious thing for them. They didn't like to do it. They didn't like to take them necessarily into battle. It was a kind of a benevolent way at looking at their existence with nature, really.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah, I like that one.
We had shown this one online on Dave's blog, I believe, but since this was going to be an arc specifically that visited Kashyyyk, and it's just a great piece. So.
Yeah, I like the idea that the clones that worked with Yoda would have kind of smacked his face on their helmet stuff. You look at the front of that clone, that guy has kind of a silhouette of Yoda's ears going back on the helmet, which was kind of fun. And it was always kind of neat to get to, I mean, to draw Chewbacca and Yoda, and that's my job, is always, to this day, 10 years, it's still really fun to do. And drawing Yoda for George was always great. It's his favorite character in a lot of ways, so I just had to make sure I drew it right.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, this was a scene that happened in the arc where Tarful basically was asking permission of the forest to kind of go into battle and do some things that were rather challenging. In a bigger portion of the story arc, it was a Trandoshan leader was working for the Separatists, and basically they had an alliance with the Separatists to attack Kashyyyk, and in order to kind of get them out of the city of trees, the Wookiees were going to have to burn a portion of the forest. The clones had no problem doing this because strategically it made sense, but it was very upsetting to the Wookiees. So you had kind of a push and pull dynamic between the Wookiees and the clones where they didn't really get along, but they were trying to find a common purpose in fighting the Separatists. But
Those are ideas that have been around for a while, right? That's sort of pre-Episode 3 even, when Episode 3 was in production, that was around. And
Some of George's earliest notes really talk about the way the Wookiees commune with the trees. And if you find, and this is another thing that we do, it's like we've got all these old interviews that George did back in '77 where he was basically speaking in the voice of the characters to someone in Lucas Licensing at the time, giving them the sort of information they need about the backstories. There's one where he goes on and on about Kashyyyk, and it talks about their ability to commune with nature, and it's almost Force-like, their sensitivity to what the trees are like.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And with the Trandoshan connection, as well. And obviously, you had that great arc in season 3. You guys remember the Trandoshans in season 3.
The Padawan Lost.
Padawan
Yeah.
Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were great episodes, and so the Trandoshans kind of come back, and
That's what I'm here for. Man.
Very good.
That's what I'm here
yeah.
I directed them. You'd think I'd remember the
No, no,
names, but you're right there with them. It's so impressive.
So-
I've hit that point 10 years in where I can't hardly remember anything anymore. And I'll go up to Pablo, Pablo, what is this thing? What is it? What is a momong? And he goes, Dave, that's something you created and named. I'm like, oh, right, momong. It's like Momo, like Airbender. Okay, yeah, no, I get it. But it's all I never remember anymore.
No.
Thank
Well,
God you're
that's
here, Pablo.
Job security here.
It truly is.
So these episodes, you're going to see more of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Was going to talk about his. Well, I want you to do the honors.
The Bad Batch?
The Bad Batch. Yeah.
This is the Bad
right.
Batch. This is what you're going to see tomorrow.
Does
If you
everybody
come
know
to the
about this?
screening.
We have a screening in here of Bad Batch, the Clone Wars episodes. in
Yeah,
here
it's
tomorrow.
4 episodes.
4 episodes.
Basically, will look like proxy animation, like you saw the Cad Bane stuff. And George wanted to explore the idea that there were clones that had kind of, at creation, at birth, specialized traits. And after the Clone 99 incident at the beginning of that, what was it, Rookies, the previous episode?
Yeah, the season 3
Cadets,
Okay.
yeah. That the Kaminoans and the Republic had decided not to kind of dispose of some aberrations like 99, but to actually impose further mutation on them to create genetic super soldiers, kind of. So the Bad Batch were the expression of these elite squad super soldiers, and the writers, especially Matt Miknovitz, got very into the Bad Batch. Was his favorite, so much so that I keep forgetting that he didn't write the first arc. It was Brent Friedman, which was rather shocking to me, because Matt talks about Bad Batch all the time. It's all he talks about. We'll be in Rebels. He talks about Bad Batch all the time. So I'm screening this for him in a lot of ways. I know he will be there and be very excited about it, and I hope everybody else gets excited about it too, because it's very different to have clones that aren't quite clones, and this it works in more of the original Super Commando idea that you see Boba Fett being thought of as an empire, more along that line.
And so you guys will get to see the first 4 episodes that introduced the Bad Batch. There was another arc that was going to follow that, and that's the Kashyyyk Arc that we've just been talking
The
about.
one Matt actually wrote.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got a clip from that we could show.
Oh, let's show it.
And this has temp voices.
Wait,
This is all temp voice coming up.
I ain't waiting for orders. I thought the cue was not to fight nature, unless it fights you first.
Yeah, that was great.
It is not wise to upset a Wookiee.
No, it is
Yeah.
not. Yeah, that was really great. It was great to see the clones having their kind of own personalities and different armors, and kind of a mashup of Republic commandos and your standard clone, especially in the blasters, and things like that.
Oh yeah, we worked specifically off the video game blast.
Yeah, because the
for those
DC-17
guys.
there
Yep.
and all that stuff.
Exactly.
That's really, really cool. And then just to see Wookiees Kashyyyk just seems so filled with opportunity
Yeah.
to explore like that. So what were those? Tell us about those creatures, those kind of praying
Oh,
mantis.
you know about those? Are
These
netcasters.
are the netcasters, yeah.
They're from a video game.
That's
They
right.
were in. Were they down in Knights of the Old Republic?
Oh, I should know
I
this.
can remember fighting those things somewhere, and I said, I want them to fight those things. They were annoying, and I want to have our guys kill them. So Kyle Dunleavy and his team did that scene, and it was really great, very nicely animated for proxy level. And it's easy to direct because you can see it so clearly at this level, versus storyboards sometimes kind of pop around from drawing to drawing, which is still beautiful. But here there's real flow to the action and the timing. And I think that one Wookiee who's really breaks the guy in half, and he had these kind of forearm things he could just punch you with, like big Wolverine-like almost claws. I think his name was Major Clausito.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That was what George called him. I was like, really? That's very bizarre. But
He's got major
it was
claws,
kind of.
yeah.
I like those weird names. They thought Babwa Venomore was the villain.
That was the Trandoshan.
Was the Transocean.
Yeah.
So some
So
fun stuff.
We had actually shown that clip in Germany and didn't get in trouble for it, so that's why we showed
That's
it
back.
again.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah,
Well, good.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. This stuff no one's seen, though.
Oh yeah. Ventress.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had a big plan for Ventress. All said, she had about 8 episodes to go. And one of the things George was most happy with was the development of that character once we kind of dethroned her on the Sith track and kind of threw her into the Night Sisters world. And she became an independent. She became much more dimensional and kind of interesting. So she had this big crossover story with Quinlan Voss, actually, who was coming back for a big part of the story.
Right. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, she had a really satisfying arc as a villain because of all those backstory flashes during the Night Sisters episodes. And yeah, that's great too. I mean, we left off last time. She was in Ahsoka's arc. When Ahsoka was on the run.
Yeah, I
last
proposed
time.
a couple different things that would actually cross them over again, but it wasn't something that I could get George to bite on. But I had something where Ahsoka and her had teamed up at one point at a pretty critical passage. This drawing I was like, was Katie Lucas and I were interested in her having some kind of punk hair. Really
cool.
kind of intense. Reminds me of your hair. Actually. You got a cut for that?
my goodness.
Okay, very good. You nailed it. As soon as I walked on here, I'm like, you look like Ventress with
that's
hair.
awesome.
I wonder if you know that. Well, you nailed it. It's perfect.
Hey,
I
you
guess
wanna
it worked then. Stand up for a second if you could.
We'll put you on the
'Cause
spot.
we'll
Sorry.
put you. No pressure.
Yeah, the Ventress haircut. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Come forward a little bit so everyone
Step
can
into
see
the
you.
light. Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
fantastic.
That's exactly it. It's nice to know it works, actually, because when I draw it, I'm like, I wonder if someone could actually do that. And there you did it. Thank you so much.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Well, there you go.
Did you see those TIE Fighter earrings, too? Those were really cool.
It's a
The
nice
whole
touch.
thing. That's awesome.
That's awesome. So she has a punk haircut.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I love that.
Well, bald so long, but people change. Sabine has crazy hair,
That's right.
so we'll
That's
see if she keeps that. You never know. But this was Ventress' ship, so you have to get your own car now, too. This is a take on Doug Chiang design.
That's right.
For the gunship from Attack of the Clones.
Droid gunship, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Or
we
the
called
Republic
it-
gunship, sorry. Yeah.
We called it the Banshee, is what it was called, so I liked that.
Kind of the side-loading type of...
This ship, I don't think this is too big a spoiler.
I don't think so.
But this ship will actually show up. We gave it to somebody else in Rebels.
Changed the paint job. It's
We
a
changed the
different
paint job
ship,
and we
but
changed
same
the
model.
proportions a little bit, but it will show up because I liked it. So well, nothing gets thrown away.
Is it a crazy paint job? Like a crazy, weird, crazy paint job?
No, we made it more like something
Multicolored?
Ralph would do. That design is not, that paint job is not something that Ralph would
Yeah.
do.
Oh.
It's something that would have been more prequel era, so we simplified it and made it more standard colors and stuff that Ralph would do, but it's pretty cool.
I'll stop
I like
fishing.
it.
I was just wondering.
That's fine. Fish away. You
All right,
never
cool.
know. With Clone Wars, I could almost say anything except really critical things, like stuff about Ahsoka. So I
Right,
can't
right.
say that stuff. We'll get to that.
Then we got Quinn showing up.
Quinlan. That's cool. Look at
And
that
this
blaster.
outfit, you might know. This was more like the comic book outfit.
Yeah, this was much more like what he was wearing closer to the end of the Star Wars Republic series.
Yeah, I mean, as it went along, I tried really hard to blend elements from the EU into what we were doing on Clone Wars when George was in favor of it. And Voss, we did slightly different outfit at first, and the model came out okay, but we redid the entire model, his facial model, and tried to get it a lot closer, you know. Every now and then from the EU, there were big things that I had to go off track, like the Mandalorians and their pacifism, which was different than I know what was perceived in a lot of other material, but that's the way George wanted it. But when I could, I tried to stay pretty faithful to EU stuff when we would use it, at least visually, because I know how much it means to people to
The
do
situation
that, so.
with Quinlan is interesting because George was particularly enamored with that character.
He was, yeah.
So he read the comics, he liked this character and inserted him into the show. And though his first appearance in season 3 is a little bit more jocular, a little bit more fun-loving, this story arc would put him through a lot more gears that would turn him more into the darker, brooding character that we're familiar with in the comics.
It was
So-
much more similar.
In terms of characters like Quinlan Voss or even Asajj Ventress or some of these characters that maybe were pre-established before Clone Wars, how does that come about with George? Did he find it in the comic book first? Was it something that was introduced to him by a research group? How did he find Quinlan Voss, for example?
He just is interested in, I mean, he loves Star Wars, so you pick up a comic book and say, I like this guy. But it doesn't mean he would be beholden to use that stuff as it was used. Mainly, I found he liked the way something looked.
Yeah, he's so visual. He gets first dibs on every piece of Star Wars art that's ever made. So he has the option to buy that. And then if you go into some of those workplaces, there's great licensing art from all ages along the walls. He loves it. And I have a feeling that he just ends up loving some more than others. Like you'll buy a picture of Aayla Secura and go, that's great. I need to put that in a movie. And he did, you know.
Well, like with Ventress, I know that like he liked her, but then as it evolved, he did not like that she was some acolyte of Dooku. So he engineered a story that got rid of that and threw her down, and then she became in some ways more interesting on her own as an independent.
Well, the Night Sisters is an interesting example of, I've got this idea. Well, there's this thing called Night Sisters from Courtship of Princess Leia, I think it was, where we're and then it's like, well, why don't we call them this?
Exactly.
And why don't we call it Dathomir? So that's kind of the, so it kind of came in, at both
Joined
angles.
in the middle,
right?
yeah.
That's
and
great.
anytime there's a real panic, I go to Pablo and Leland. I'm like, you're not going to believe what we're doing. The Mandalorians are pacifists.
We'll make it work.
How are we going to brace
We'll
for
always
this?
make it work.
And then we do. We try to figure it out.
Yeah.
But we have a clip of. Is
We-
that what
we
you
do
did?
let's show it.
coming
Yeah,
up,
I'll
So you'll like this. This is a clip of Ventress. So
get to
this
see
is
her
some
in
stuff
action.
we were going to do with her.
There's my Volpa.
This should be easy. called a tackle.
Who are you?
Relax. I've got this one, honey.
Honey?
I don't think so.
That was one of my editors playing Quinlan Voss, Nick, and that was another one of my editors, Sheila. Playing Ventress.
Yeah.
We would, in the process of making an episode, we would do a lot of changes to dialogue right in the editorial room. It's something I learned from George. We would, record a temp track, but then we would keep rewriting lines and trying to find better lines, and it was something that he did as a director and something he taught me to do. So I wouldn't want to waste the budget on having the actors actually read the lines and then have them redo it over and over and over again. So I had people within the studio, we called them the Big Rock Temp crowd, and so all these different people that worked on the show would come in and voice the characters, and some of them get really obsessed with how good they are at it, and they're not good ever. My editor swore that he was Captain Rex, and Henry Gilroy to this day thinks he does an amazing Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he's really Henry doing James, doing Ewan,
doing Alec
Guinness, and it's like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. So it's okay, but
okay
not
for
as
temp.
good as Henry thinks it is.
Right.
So it's pretty funny stuff. I have just tons of them still recorded, and I'll call them sometimes. Like Justin Ridge, we used to call him in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. We'd still be at work editing. We had him playing Anaconda Far, and he says, "Ciao basso, my sweet little Padme," and then would just hang up. And we would hold it up to the speaker, call him, and then hit answer and hang up. And so that's how serious our job is.
Yeah.
But it passes the time in editorial for sure.
Well, that was amazing. Even with temp voice, temp animation, temp sounds. I mean, that was a really elaborate sequence. I think you pointed it out when we were looking at this a little earlier. This is the one clip I did see before.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly staged with new weapons, too. I mean, what was that? Can you talk about Ventress's...
Her bow, her Night
bow.
Sister bow, sort of the last vestige of her Night Sister days.
Yeah, it's a sneaky thing. That's the planet Pantora that was in an earlier arc. We had designed it several times, and we finally were going to go there and do this kind of parkour thing. The bow that she uses is a nod back to something that I love in animation, which was the original 80s Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. And Hank, remember Hank had that awesome energy bow that could almost do anything Hank wanted it to, seemingly at the right time. And so that was a little bit of a nod to that.
I think you still see a little bit of Hank in Ezra's slingshot.
A little bit, yeah. I love that show. I still watch it. And without it, I don't know that I would have gotten into animation. It was really inspiring to me. So that was a little bit of where we got that from.
One thing I was going to point out, that chase was going to continue, and among the sights and sounds of Pantora City, they were going to come across this statue. And I don't know who here can recognize what's at the top of that statue. That's Chairman Papanoida, a.k.a. George Lucas.
It was a funny shot. We had some birds sitting on it. And I was like, okay, well, as long as the birds aren't doing anything up there except sitting, we'll be fine.
It should be all right.
It's kind of a Trafalgar Square kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's cool.
So we won't get into what happens in the storyline, but in these... It's 8 episodes total. Mm-hmm. But at the halfway point, Count Dooku gets involved, and it becomes important for a mission that Asajj is on for them to attack Dooku's lair on Sereno. So what
Are we showing that clip?
We are.
We are.
We are showing that clip.
Is this something we're not
really?
supposed to show?
Well,
'Cause I now
it's
wanna
going
see
to
it
raise
more.
some questions.
That's great.
But that's all right.
I didn't know we got approval to show that clip.
We didn't get disapproval.
That is a really interesting way to look at it.
Better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission on this one? Is that the...
Yeah.
You guys want to see it? Oh, look at that.
Before we get to that,
There was this whole thing where they had to go to this massive separatist gathering on a planet. It wasn't on Sereno. It was on
Raxus.
On Raxus. And Ventress had to wear this big ball gown, basically to sneak into this ball.
There you go. If you can...
So I thought that'd be some...
all right. She's doing that tomorrow, apparently.
Okay. Talking to Ashley, about couture all the time and wanting fashion. So here's some Ventress fashion for you that she could fight in. So it still had little snake accessories, and that was a fun one.
All right. So we'll get into the clip. It's probably the less said and the more seen, the better. So let's see what happens.
Wow.
Wow.
So if you want to know what the heck was going on, this is where I have to be a little bit chilly and plug this, but we're actually quite proud of this. Dark Disciple, novel by Christy Golden, coming out in July. There's a poster that Del Rey is going to be making available. I don't know when, but harass them about it. And it's great. We gave the scripts over to Christy and to Del Rey. They were very enthusiastic to get it. And she turned it into a full-length novel, all 8 episodes, and it's a compelling read, so highly recommend it.
Do you need that?
No, you want it?
Give it to Ventress. She has the haircut.
Yeah, you'll get this.
Yeah.
I'll get this there.
Here.
There we go.
That's for you. Anyone that gets their hair cut.
Yes.
There you go. We'll sign it later.
That's awesome.
So this book comes out in July and is a perfect example of us all working together and trying to find places for these stories where it makes the most amount of sense.
That scene was amazing. I mean, it was really, just the choreography was so clever, and it was so great to get.
Did you see there's a little nod to something else?
I saw Time Bandits.
Yes!
And I saw Captain EO
That's
with the Whip
very
Warriors at the
good.
same time.
Time Bandits.
But I saw
excellent.
Time Bandits in there like
I love
immediately.
Terry Gilliam. So
but when he sends the Force Lightning down,
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
For those of you who remember the old Disneyland attraction.
Definitely
George
Time
Lucas,
Bandits when they fight the devil. That was
Oh,
great.
totally. It
Scared
was
the
great.
heck out of me as a
So-
kid.
Great Terry Gilliam movie
Very
for those of you
good.
who haven't seen it.
So those were the core arcs that we want to talk about, but there's so much art. I'm calling this the lightning round, where I've just picked images.
Lightning round, and this was all approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So just quick stuff to talk about. Nobody's
It was
telling me no.
always a struggle to get all the council members on the Jedi Council. Finally, we were
Depa?
going to have them, so we were building the last couple. Depa Billaba was one, which is now significant to me because it turns out that she was Kanan's master, so that was kind of important.
Wow. Oh,
This
cool.
is a great painting.
Amazing work.
Basically, you see on the left-hand side, those are medical units, almost like MASH units, that the shuttles over there, you see a medical shuttle, would carry in and drop onto the battlefield. This was in the aftermath of a big battle that occurred on...
Lord Mantell.
Thank you. And Pablo's so great. This is basically the Republic mopping up after a battle between... I'm just going to tell you, because it seems we're in free-for-all mode. So it was between the Separatists and the Mandalorians, actually. And the
this ended
Republic
up-
came in and was wondering what the heck happened.
And this ended up in the Darth Maul, son of Dathomir
did.
arc. So, but I just
It
want to
did.
show that the art that inspired the comic began
That's
in this
true.
form. Yeah. That's also from that arc.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Maul's Mandalorians really took to the whole red and black paint scheme thing. So, but on a filmmaking level, anytime you're having battles between similar groups, you need them easily identifiable on screen. So most of Maul's equipment and loyalists became red and black on some level, paint job-wise.
Here's one for trivia fans.
Oh yeah, you can tell them who this is.
Oh
This
yeah,
is fun.
finally, for those dying to know what Oppo Rancisis' lightsaber looks like.
Oh, interesting.
There it is.
We thought it'd be fun to make it similar to Dooku's to show that it's not just one person's lightsaber, but it's a style of lightsaber.
The bent hilt like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this one. So this was a funny joke because I realized at one point that none of the clones, maybe outside of Rex, actually knew that Anakin was seeing Padme, let alone married to her.
no.
So when you see the Bad Batch's gunship, they actually have this painted on the nose. And Anakin sees it, and he looks at Rex, and he's like, what is that? And the Bad Batch are like, oh, yeah, that's that senator from Naboo. And she can negotiate with me any day. And then they get on the shuttle, and Anakin looks at Rex, he's like, that is not staying on there. So, but it's just, I thought it was a funny look at the world, so. Well, it's like a World War II nod.
Yeah.
And this is for the TK's fan out there.
Yeah. For whoever, I don't know who you are, who keeps hoping that Senator TK's of the Corran was going to show up in the Clone Wars. He almost made it.
He almost made it, and there was an above water city of the Corran that we were going to do.
Yeah, we were going to go back to Mon Cala for another storyline set on the water world there.
Wow.
This I find fascinating.
George and I had a discussion about, Coruscant is built vertically, and something that I always liked is how a lot of churches are built on ancient sites, ancient pagan sites. They were other things before they became the present-day church that they are. So he and I discussed how if you delve down beneath the Jedi Temple to its ultimate base, that it's probably built on top of other ancient ruins of other religions of the Force. And ultimately, there was a possibility of being a Sith temple way down at the bottom of it. So if you delved into the temple vertically, this is some of the architecture that you would find. And there was a story where we journeyed down below the guts of the temple on Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in that
It was
story?
tragic. There were these things.
Which is why you don't go down there.
Oh.
Yeah. They fold up like those giant sleeping rocks, and then they unfold, and they're just like these giant kind of skeletal kaiju-like things, which I was really digging. But yeah, creepy stuff. And then this was Top Gun with clones, which was kind of...
Top Clone?
Yeah, Top Clone. It was basically the Army clones, the ground forces got in an argument with the pilots, and their astromechs got in an argument, and R2 insulted the astromech, and it became this thing where Rex ended up having to fly a fighter with R2 as his co-pilot, and Rex doesn't fly, so he's mad at R2, and he was involved in this chase. So it was just a total, like, military serviceman battle, ego royale, and then Rex, of course, crashes and is stuck with R2, so it turned out to be madness. I wish we got to do that one. It's pretty funny.
This is a controversial image.
Yeah, that was a crazy thing.
Could you believe that this would ever show up anywhere?
Wow.
This is me going through Dave's sketchbook going, Dave,
what are you doing?
What is this?
Getting all Vector Prime up in here.
Well, yes.
Wow.
You know, once you make the Mandalorians pacifists and bring Darth Maul back from the dead, anything is really possible in your mind. So we were working on a story that involved the Vong in a very minimal way. It was kind of a scout ship that was trying to assess the strength of the Republic and kind of what Jedi were, and it got a little bit into that. It was pretty creepy, and this was just an exploration I did of what a ship would look like, and all those kind of flanges on the side were going to kind of move and oscillate as it moved through space. And that's a Jedi cruiser in front of it, just to give you a sense of scale.
Yeah. It was really playing, the storyline really played on the alien abduction vibe. It was almost like an X-Files episode of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. So.
It was going to be pretty creepy. And then I started to explore some of the armor of what I had seen of the Vong and how I was going to take and distill it down to an animated style. But we never got that far.
Always in motion is the future.
Oh, yeah. So these were going to be clone troopers that were like Ahsoka Tano loyalists.
Yeah, like Bruta type of...
Inspired by her.
I don't want to get too much into what that's about.
Well...
what if you got a little into what that's about?
Well, here we go. Let's talk about our girl.
Okay, well... We, of course, weren't done with Ahsoka, and we had a pretty big plan for her as far as the, what would lead up to the end of the Clone Wars. Definitely, I'll say that the end of the Clone Wars TV series actually coincided with Revenge of the Sith and went past it. The final episodes of the series actually explained where Ahsoka and Rex and the major characters were during things like the Battle of Coruscant, during Order 66, and even like kind of up into where things happened after Order 66 was called. So it gave you context so you could watch those movies and go, oh, okay, now I get where they were. This bike that you actually see behind her, you actually see it in Rebels. It's actually Kanan's bike now. So I reused that asset because that asset got built. This was Ahsoka's new costume that we were going to do. And I just really liked this costume. It was kind of based a little bit more on a little anime kind of pop style. I asked Ashley what animal she would like on Ahsoka's boot, and she said monkey. I don't like monkeys personally. I like wolves, but she picked a monkey, so I put a boot monkey on there. And I just wanted it to be a little bit different of an outfit for her, something that we hadn't seen yet. And it was basically dealing with the repercussions of her deciding to leave the Order and how someone that was raised in the temple, suddenly in the outside world, while she was smart in a lot of ways, is now a soldier and a commander, she might not be as smart about how things work on the street and the type of people that she would meet as she tried to figure out a way to, if she was going to come back to the Order at all, or what it meant that now she had left the Order. And that's a detail of her bike right there.
And we have one last clip to show.
You do.
So the thing that we got really obsessed with, I'll just set this one up
Sure.
a little bit,
Yeah.
was that George and I talked a lot about actions that escalate. So you could have your primary action in a scene you're going to direct, but then what he loved about Indiana Jones was something else would happen. You would know what Indy's goal was, but on his way from getting A to B, there were all these other side things, and things would get worse. So as I was directing on Clone Wars, I kept trying to challenge ourselves on, like, how could we write things that escalate and keep getting worse? It makes the action more tense. It makes it funnier. And by the end, I think we were finally starting to get it. So this scene, which involves Ahsoka on her speeder bike, will show you a little bit of that type of action, which is leaning, I think, a little more Indiana Jones than it actually was Star Wars, but it was something that directorially George and I wanted to explore.
That's great. You guys want to see it? Let's do it.
All right. Oh no. Come on! What a piece of junk. I've been swindled. I should have known better than to trust a used speeder salesman.
That was awesome.
And that we had Ashley, of course. That was actually Ashley playing Ahsoka there.
That was
so-
Final voice there, yeah.
Yeah,
voice.
that was a really fun one. It really dealt with her kind of late teenage years. When she got swindled buying a bike and
Having to go out on her own
out
for
of
the first
temple,
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a good
that's-
story.
Well, we have some time for some questions. If we can, we may bring the house lights up a little bit and set up some microphones. In case you guys have some questions, this is a great opportunity with Pablo and Dave here to ask about some of this stuff, or maybe some other things. There's going to be a microphone right here in this aisle, and I believe a microphone right there in that aisle. Yes, right here. Go ahead right here, if the mic is on.
I really don't want to put you guys on the spot.
Oh boy, but you're going to.
But I'm
That's
going
so
to.
nice to preface. Go ahead.
So, I've been a Star Wars fan since I was 8. I'm 46. Clone Wars is my favorite TV show of my life.
Thank you.
And so when Disney canceled it, it really put a pall over their entire ownership of the franchise for me and for a lot of people. And we're just dying to know why. Why did they cancel it? It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's magnificent. I don't understand.
It's a fair question to me, and I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. I mean, obviously we had plans, and I felt very strongly about the show, given that, you know, I thought I learned a lot making it. I thought it is a very quality show. But, you know, would I have liked to finish it? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind I would have liked to. I also respect, though, that, you know, there has been kind of a big shift, and we're now telling new stories and setting a lot of things straight the way we want to. So lost in the middle of all that for me, frankly, was a lot of people that I worked with a long time. But my main focus became, you know, ending Clone Wars and finding a satisfying way to do that with Yoda, and then finding a way to put everybody on a new show in Rebels. So for me, Rebels kind of became the new focus in a way to, you know, keep all the work that my team and I had done on Clone Wars alive. And I know it's a very different show, but I think if it means anything, the people that I have working on these shows, they worked on Clone Wars, they worked on Rebels, they're the heart and soul of this whole thing. My main interest is keeping them at Lucasfilm, and they're going to continue to move forward and create, I think in the end, shows that surpass Clone Wars in the long run with the technology that we're developing at our studios. So, and I would say this, you know, don't let it throw a pall over or things that are happening. You know, Kathy and JJ love Star Wars. They're doing a magnificent job. The people working on the new movie are just brilliant. They care about Star Wars as much as you and I do. And what I love most about everything moving forward is it comes from a place of loving Star Wars. And in the process, you know, we lost Clone Wars, and I totally appreciate the disappointment, but our hope is to replace it with things in the future that are hopefully bigger and better and work off the experience we had making that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the Force will be with us for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right here.
So the Utapau arc, were those kyber crystals what Palpatine used to power up the Death Star's super laser?
I know the answer to that. I'm going to pass the question to Pablo, though.
Oh, yeah.
And see how you answer that question.
I'll say we've got a couple of pieces of evidence that kyber crystals can be used to do that, true. That Palpatine wanted kyber crystals from Utapau, true. Did it actually get from A to B? I don't know. We're not done telling those stories. But you're right. That was the intent. That was what those were earmarked for.
That's a great,
That's
a great question.
Save the Clone Wars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right here.
Recently, you made available some stuff for Ahsoka, the colors of her skin and Aliku and all that kind of stuff. Are you going to make more of that available to costumers going forward and even going backwards? Some costumes are really amazing from the Clone Wars, like the Jedi Temple card and a lot of the Mandalorian Death Watch stuff. But it's very difficult to get what color is that? You know, what shape is that? You know, we costumers want more.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with that. My favorite thing coming here is seeing you guys in costume. So I hadn't thought about that, retconning back to Clone Wars. But usually the way that comes about, I had a fan, you know, ping me on Facebook that happened to say, hey, I'd like to have the actual color of Hera's, you know, orange jumpsuit. And I said, sure. So my art department's kind enough to put those together and we post them. So I'll look at doing some of the Death Watch and clones. I have no problem. I mean, just frankly, you know, shoot it online on my Facebook page and then I'll get specific characters. But definitely I'll keep doing more Rebels, but I can open that up to Clone Wars too.
Thank you so much.
It'd be my pleasure.
Cool. Right here.
Oh God, I'm here. Okay. What happened to Barriss Offee? Because there were a lot of unanswered questions there.
Well, that's a great question. So I say that, and while I'm saying that, I'm actually formulating my answer to you that I can reasonably give you. I'll tell you what did not happen to her. In the original script, she died at the end of the episode. She blew up her prison cell and her along with it, with the same kind of microbots that were in, what was that girl's name?
Oh,
Come on.
Letta Termon.
Thank you. So we're in Letta Termon. Man, it's amazing how you do that. Sorry to put you on the spot, but it's so impressive to me.
That's
and
a
I
panel in and of
helped
itself
make
right
the
there.
show again, so it really blows my
You
mind.
keep me on my toes, man.
You frighten me. But I didn't want that fate for Barris, so I cut that part. You're welcome. I had plans for Barris, and still do. Like, I think Barris is an interesting character. The most compelling thing I find about what Barris said is that a lot of it was true. It wasn't that what Barris said was wrong or a lie, it was the way she acted that was wrong. And that, I think, gave Ahsoka a lot of pause, and in a lot of ways was the reason why she left. Because she couldn't deny a lot of what Barris said was true, but she wouldn't have acted the way Barris did. So,
Do they ever meet again? Because
do they ever meet again? That's a great question. Would make a great story probably, but not a story we'll tell today. I don't know how much trouble Pablo and I are already in, so we'll just keep it at the DEF CON we're at right now.
Right over here.
Well, you can relax because I have a pretty easy question.
That's never true, but okay. You're trying to drop my guard. That's really great.
Well, I was actually wondering, is there any chance you'll ever publish your personal sketchbooks so we can see kind of the thought processes in your character designs?
I would love that. I mean, I would really enjoy that. I would want to try to give you guys context for the drawings and kind of explain what the thinking was behind each of them. I would say just keep asking for it.
Would you guys like to see
happen.
a follow-up to the Art of Clone Wars book, which only covers...
Yeah.
Go online, tell every publisher you know, because I'd love to see that book. And
Yeah.
I mean, just let people know that the interest is there for a Art of Lucasfilm animation book, I think.
You could put it together and curate it, and you could basically write
it door to
comments
door?
on it.
No, I would love that.
And we'll buy it.
There you
Please
go.
do.
Right here.
Hey Dave, it's Lillian.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You got the figure?
Yeah, I did.
All right,
Thank you so
cool.
much.
That was hard to find.
Really? Yeah.
All
I
right.
was able to find them anyway. But I've been asking you the same question since 2012, so it kind of came a little full circle today with Boba and Bane. But you said that you recycle concepts and ideas, so do you think maybe we'll see any of that in Rebels?
Things from Clone Wars winding up in Rebels, ideas and concepts?
Like Boba Fett and Bane, Cad Bane maybe.
Oh, Cad Bane being in Rebels.
Yeah, maybe.
You were really roundabout about that and very tricky. Boy, at present he is not.
Okay.
I'll be very honest with you. He is technically in Rebels.
Or Sabine.
Because Sabine has
illustrated.
painted a picture of him in her room, which I find really interesting because it means that Sabine knows who Embo and Cad Bane are, because Embo's in there too. So it makes you wonder about Sabine. So if it's related to our characters, I'd say there's more of a shot of it. At present, I'm just going to be very honest with you, no. He would be a big-time character for them to deal with. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would probably lean a little bit more Embo, because I like Embo, and he's got the dog. But then the writers tell me his dog would be dead. And I'm like, why would you say just a terrible thing about his dog? I'm like, it's an alien dog. Maybe it lives for a long time. You don't know. And there's such, right? I mean, he caught the hat and everything. So, I don't know, maybe. It's never impossible. But right now, I'm just really excited to have Ahsoka back and to see where that goes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Right over here.
So it's been mentioned a couple times that Kyle Newman recorded some voices for episodes that weren't released. I just want to know, did he voice Kitster or Ben Quadraneros?
Well, I'll have you know, he played a Toon.
He did.
It wasn't Ben Quadraneros, and we just watched it the other day. And it's a brilliant performance by Kyle. He brought, he understands Ben Quadraneros in a way that nobody else on the planet does. I can say that with surety. And it was really fun. It was really disappointing that it never made it to screen. I was so glad I could have him do that. I don't think you'll ever see it. It was a really strange voice. I'm probably doing him a favor by not showing it. Maybe next celebration.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll do, but he would not play Kitster. I don't know where that kid is. Everybody keeps asking me on an escalator today, where's Kitster? I'm like, I don't know. I wish I could help you. Put him in Rebels, yeah, that's not going to happen. But it came up once, and that's like right there with Paulo.
Yeah.
I might as well put Paulo in it, and he's an artist.
We
right?
can't, we can't turn Rebels into a shelter for all these abandoned characters, you know.
Maybe we should put them all in the same scene together.
Yeah.
And one
The Adventures
episode,
of Paulo
yeah,
and Kitster?
Yeah.
I would put Kyle in that episode as Kyle Newman, surrounded by vintage action figures, like he wants to be.
On their way to the Jedi Temple to see, Archive 1 or something. Right here.
Hi, I'm a big Clone Wars fan. I'm a big Cad Bane fan, a big Boba Fett fan. I just really wanted to know what your idea for their relationship, Cad Bane and Boba Fett together, was like. Was it like a passing of the torch sort of thing, or mentoring, or was he going to
I would definitely say, it was a big passing of the torch. I mean, Cad Bane is Angel Eyes. If you watch the Sergio Leone westerns, he is that character, and Boba's Clint Eastwood. He's the man with no name. So when you take those two characters together, I can't remember if it's a fistful of dollars or for a few dollars more, where they work together a little bit. There's some camaraderie there, but they're also enemies.
Yeah.
And so with Bane and Boba, there was a thing where Bane basically was taking to teaching Boba because Bane knew his dad.
Yeah.
Secretly, what Bane was doing was there was always the dispute of who was better, Bane or Django.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
because Django got taken out by Mace, Bane feels on some level that that's now never going to be known. But here's Boba, a perfect copy. So if Bane can teach Boba to be great, like his dad, then Bane can probably finally find out who is better. A lot of it is about legacy. And so we were getting into that. And I didn't even hear what you said, so I can't agree or disagree with what you said. So I don't know, but thank you.
Well, we have this incredible screening tomorrow. It's tomorrow, right? The Bad
Tomorrow.
Batch screening.
Bad
is here
Batch tomorrow. More Clone Wars tomorrow.
So much more Clone Wars plus Rebels. You're going to be on this. You're on the stage pretty much every day this
That's
time
why I'm
around.
here.
That's right. Well,
I love
unfortunately, and
being
I
here.
hate this part, but we're out of time. Unfortunately, this time.
I
but,
know, and I got Hondo in line. Hey Hondo, how's it going?
Oh, that's
I hear
a brilliant
you,
Hondo.
I hear you're in Rebels, Hondo. I don't know. What do you think? Well, stick around and watch this weekend. You might see yourself. I'm just saying.
Please join me in thanking Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo from Lucasfilm for this panel. Thank you so much, guys. Can't wait to see more.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
everyone. We'll see you soon.